Good morning, class 3. Today in social studies, I am going to explain you chapter 21 of your textbook, The Story of the Pyramids. Children, do you know what a pyramid is? It is a shape or a building whose sides are triangles. The pyramid in the picture was built by the people of Egypt over 4,500 years ago. Egypt has many pyramids. The biggest is called the Great Pyramid. It is at Giza near Cairo. Thousands of years ago, Egypt was a rich and powerful kingdom. It was ruled by kings called pharaohs. When king or members of their family died, they were buried inside pyramids. The Egyptians looked upon the king as a god and they believed in afterlife, that is, life after death. So they made sure that the king would live well in his afterlife and protect them forever. To make the king's body last a long time, it was prepared in a special way. It was cleaned, dried, and wrapped in stripes of white cloth. A dead body treated in this way is called a mummy. In Egypt, cats were a common pet. Many mummies of cats and other animals have been found. Now, after that, the mummy was placed in a decorated coffin. The king's coffin was placed in a room inside the pyramid. For his use in afterlife, things like food, jars, bowls, jewelries, and furniture were placed in the room. Then the entrance of the room and the pyramid was sealed to keep out thieves. Now let's talk about how these pyramids were built, because they were built many years ago and you know that there were no cranes or bulldozers then. It took thousands of workers about 20 years to build the Great Pyramid. Farmers also worked on the pyramid when their fields were flooded by river water. The king gave everyone food for their work. The pyramids are made of thousands of stone blocks. The stones are cut and shaped into blocks. The blocks were then dragged on sledges or logs to where a pyramid was being built. The workers arranged the blocks carefully to form each step of the pyramid. As the pyramid rose higher, ramps, that is, the slopes, were built to pull the blocks up. The outer stones were made slanted to give the pyramid a smooth slope, and they were polished to make it shiny. We know about early Egyptians from the writings, paintings, statues, and other things that they made. These tell us how they lived and what they wore, what jobs they did, who they worshipped, and other things also. Egyptians used pictures and signs to write. Everyone could not write. Most of the people who learned to read and write became scribes. They wrote about everything that went on. They wrote on a special kind of paper made from the papyrus plant. They also wrote on stone slabs, pottery, and the walls of the building. The word paper came from papyrus. Most of Egypt is a desert, but the banks of the river Nile, which flows through Egypt, are fertile, that is, good for growing crops. Every year, the Nile floods its banks, covering the land with water. When the water drains away, it leaves the land covered with fertile soil. So, near the Nile, there is plenty of water and fertile land for growing crops. That is why, for thousands of years, people have been able to live there. Some of the earliest cities came up on the banks of the Nile. People living in these cities knew how to read and write. They had their own language, laws, religion, and art. Such people are said to form a civilization. Egypt had one of the earliest civilizations. The river Nile made this possible. This is why Egypt is called the gift of the Nile. Okay, children, now please go through this lesson very carefully. Thank you, dear.